It's the battle of the franchises, and today we're gonna see which one is the ultimate thieving copycat. In the red corner, we have Marvel, who thought they could get away with this Superman clone. And in the blue corner, there's DC, with their sneaky little Eskrima-wielding homage to Daredevil. And it doesn't end there. There's tons of copycat heroes, villains, vigilantes, and whatnot out there, and I'm gonna uncover them all. The rules are simple. Points will be awarded for every hero, villain, or concept stolen. 1 point for a slight copy in concept, 2 if the superpowers or abilities are the same, and 3 points if the copy work is so horrendously obvious that She-Hulk and Daredevil couldn't argue their way out of it in court. Now let's get ready to rumble, starting with a pair of the deadliest mercenaries you'd ever see. Deadpool and Deathstroke. On the one hand, we have a suave master assassin, expert bladesman, and professional marksman, a man who would stop at nothing until his target tastes death at the end of his blade. Yep, they did all right. And on the other side, we have a slick master assassin, expert swordsman, and professional sharpshooter. A man who would stop at nothing until his enemy tastes... Wait a minute, hold up. That can't be right. It's basically the same person, right? Oh, yeah, I see. Now, with the amount of sick tomfoolery Deadpool gets up to, hard to picture him on the same level as Deathstroke. Still, putting them side by side, they both share an alarming amount of similarities, from the character designs to even their names, Slade Wilson and Wade Wilson. Yep, either the copycat was too lazy to come up with a different last name, or Wilson must be a common name for mercenaries. Would certainly explain why Wilson at the office seemed dodgy. Either way, they both carry dual swords, dual pistols, have impressive mastery over a plethora of weapons. They also possess inhuman agility, strength, and even surprisingly, healing factors. I know, I was just surprised to hear Deathstroke had super healing abilities, but the evidence pretty much speaks for itself. Okay, so maybe healing from a little knife cut isn't the best of ways to assess the quality of a healing factor. I mean, every Tom, Dick, and Harry in a superhero universe should be able to heal from that no problem. However, this should be more than enough to convince you. Believe it or not, the dude actually survived that and more. Now, it doesn't come anywhere close to Deadpool's healing factor. Not sure anything does, really. I mean, Deadpool once was ripped in half.
Oh my god, I can't feel my legs! Oh my god! Oh no, they're right here.
And that's just a regular Tuesday for the guy. As for who copied who, you're not gonna believe this. Marvel's Deadpool was actually created back in 1990, a whole 10 years after Deathstroke first came to be. Thievery aside, I suppose Marvel can take solace in the fact that they made a much more lovable character, and they can also take 3 points. Up next are the 2 most powerful ladies in their corresponding universes, Raven and Jean Grey. These are ladies so strong their teammates must sleep with one eye open out of fear alone. How about we start with the one that's got daddy issues?
Azarat, Metreon, Zinthos.
What the hell?
Oh, Raven, poor girl. Just had to be the daughter of an archdemon hell-bent on conquering worlds. Relatable. As if that's not enough, she gets to walk around with that same father sealed inside a jewel in her head. Kudos to Raven. I don't know how she does it. Oh wait, maybe I do know. Thanks to her demonic heritage and training she's received from birth, she's so incredibly adept at sorcery that keeping her dear old daddy at bay is usually a piece of cake. Usually.
No!
Game Can't blame a girl for putting the world at risk once or twice. Now, on the Marvel side of things, we have another lady who took inspiration from Raven, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you till later. Either way, she's just as insanely powerful and a being to be feared for sure. Jean Grey started off like most Omega-level mutants, incredibly powerful at first, and only became stronger as time passed. She went from being second in telepathy to Professor X and struggling with basic telekinesis to straight up obliterating any and all living things around her. Now that's what I call true power. I want it. Anyway, this sudden and overwhelming power-up wasn't from Jean alone, as it was a result of merging with Phoenix Force. And for those of you who don't know, the Phoenix Force is this cosmic, massive energy that's the manifestation of the universal force of life and passion. Okay, cool. Got that? A bit confusing, sure. Think of it this way. It's the embodiment of the very passion of creation, the spark that gave life to the universe, the flame that will ultimately consume it. Too bad Jean mostly uses it for the latter.
Everybody get out of here!
I still want the power. Maybe I can control it better. No, I definitely could. I can barely control my bowels. Anywho, with this whole housing devastating forces of destruction thingy, it's undeniable that inspiration was stolen from either DC or Marvel. And upon further investigation, I discovered that the Phoenix Force made its first appearance 4 years before Raven in 1976. 1 point to DC for copying something as beautiful as the Phoenix and dyeing it demonic black. You guys know the popular saying, the bigger the better? Well, I know a couple of guys in the superhero business who would say otherwise. Ant-Man and Atom. In fact, these two go out of their way to prove that the little guys with a nice personality can get the job done. Introducing the hero on the Marvel lineup first, the one everyone says could have ended the Thanos problem if he just crawled up his bum. Ladies and gents, it's Ant-Man. What an introduction, right? You know the amazing thing about him shrinking down to the size of an ant? The fact that he's got superhuman strength and agility in that teeny tiny form. Plus, ant size isn't the smallest he can go. Under the right conditions, he can even shrink down into the quantum realm, a microscopic dimension located beneath the subatomic level. Yeah, I know I just said it, but I really don't get what I just said. Let's just say he can get really, really, really small. Then there's DC's Atom. Incredibly too simple as far as superhero names go, but just as accurate.
I'm coming up. Stand by. Hello, Superman.
So we can see shrinking is definitely something that both heroes share for sure, but I bet you didn't know that they're both scientific geniuses. Well, the first versions of themselves at least. What I mean is, over the decades, there's been multiple Ant-Mans, and also multiple Atoms. However, the first of these heroes were scientists that pioneered the shrinking science that became the foundation of their heroism. Way to make a guy jealous, Adam. As far as differences go, let's take a look at the other ability Ant-Man has, other than the shifting his size thing, the ability to communicate with ants and make them do his bidding. Might not look like much at first glance, but imagine this, a whole colony of ants, all supersized to about 8 feet, all under his command. Terrifying, right? I'd like to see Adam pull that off. Either way, I believe having the same base abilities and similar professional background still warrants 3 points. And the copycat who deserves them? Marvel. Turns out they released Ant-Man 22 years after Atom was a thing way back in 1940. Who loves flowers? If you do, then you'd probably absolutely love Swamp Thing and Man-Thing. Okay, so they're more swamp than flower, but still plants nonetheless, albeit with tasteless names. And right from the get-go, first glance, you can just tell this is a copy and paste kind of situation. Take DC's Swamp Thing, for instance. He's this huge hulking mass of plants and vegetation, the swampy, murky kind, of course.
John Constantine.
Then on the other hand, there's Marvel's Man-Thing, another huge, hulking mass of plants and vegetation. Great Scott, they could be twins. How about powers? Surely there must be something different about that. I've heard that Swamp Thing controls pretty much all vegetation, thick, powerful vines and the likes. Pretty standard given his looks and physiology. What about Man-Thing? Will he surprise us with something different? Okay, they look kind of the same as Swamp Thing's Vine Control, except more gruesome. And get this, both characters are created by roommates within the same year, 1971. However, the roommate that worked for Marvel debuted Man-Thing first, 2 months before the other. In fact, the only thing different about both characters is their origin stories. While Man-Thing was a scientist that injected himself with a variant of the Super Soldier Serum and fell in a swamp, Swamp Thing was a scientist who got doused with some chemicals and fell into a swamp. Actually, that still sounds awfully similar. Alright, that does it. A full 3 points to DC for their lack of creativity. Up next is Nova and Green Lantern. A Marvel character people don't really know much about is certainly Nova, and the few that do might remember him from the time he used to hang out with Spider-Man and co.
And I've already met Captain Buckethead. Name's Nova, creep. Nova creep.
Nova, the human rocket.
Catchy. Okay.
As you can see, Nova's a superhero capable of flight, super speed, strength, durability, energy, blasts, and absorption. Quite an armful of powers, wouldn't you say? Then there's the DC hero Green Lantern. Him, I'm sure you all must know of.
At first, his humanity was thought to be a weakness. There was one whose light shined brightest. Of all the lanterns who have ever worn the ring, and yet it proved to be his greatest strength.
Don't take a genius to put two and two together here, what with the flight speed and whatnot, but let's be frank, in the superhero world, those are considered everyday powers. So where do the similarities between Nova and Green Lantern really come into play? Well, first, let's start with their power sources. For Green Lantern, it's his power ring, an alien super weapon capable of granting the user flight, strength, protection from all environmental conditions, and a customizable power suit. The same pretty much goes for Nova, except instead of a ring, it's a helmet. In fact, as far as powers go, the only true difference between both is the Green Lantern ring's ability to do this. Yep, the power to make energy constructs of whatever the user imagines. That is the unique power of the Green Lanterns. However, beside power sources, there still remains one more glaring similarity between both heroes, and that is their affiliations. Green Lanterns are typically members of the Green Lantern Corps. Think of it as a sort of alien police force that protects the galaxies.
In brightest day,
No evil shall escape my sight. In blackest night, beware my power. Let those who worship evil's might. Green Lantern's light.
Nova, on the other hand, is part of the Nova Corps, another alien force that also protects the galaxies. So it all boils down to who copied the other's homework, and I'm surprised to see that it's actually Marvel who waited 36 years to steal from DC's Green Lantern that debuted back in 1940. Since it's a simple inspiration kind of theft, let's just give them 1 point. Moving on, an ability that's way too niche to copy without being noticed as super stretching. I mean, when you think about it, there's only a handful of popular stretching heroes out there besides Mr. Fantastic and Plastic Man. And while you think on that, let's wave in the champion for the blue side, Plastic Man.
Aha, Rubberneck! I've caught you red-handed. Check and mate.
And swinging on in on the red side is the renowned genius and husband to Sue Storm, Mr. Fantastic. Oh, my bad. Wrong footage. This is Mr. Fantastic.
They defeated Red Ghost and his super apes.
You know, I've always wondered, most heroes have hero names that symbolize their superpower, like Plastic Man, for example. Makes you wonder why Reed Richards picked the name Mr. Fantastic. Is it because of his superpower? Nothing fantastic about super stretching. Not unless it involves stretching certain parts of his body. Oh, I see now. Now I know why those ladies at that one party were so impressed by him.
And then, bang! It exploded.
Now, beside the ability to contort and stretch their bodies beyond human limits, there's nothing else similar between those two heroes. Not their looks, not their origin stories, not even their frackin' color scheme. And as much as I hate to say it, Plastic Man seems much more goated than Mr. Fantastic. His stretching ability goes far beyond just simple super stretch. That right there is practically shape-shifting. Not to mention it comes along with superior invulnerability. I kid you not, I once saw the dude tank Superman's punches and even restrain him. Yeah, I don't see Mr. Fantastic pulling that one off, but he did pull Susan Storm, so there's that. Anyway, nice to know that even though Marvel was inspired by DC back in 1961, they didn't copy more than just the basic powers of Plastic Man, who debuted 20 years prior, so I'm going to give 2 points to Marvel here. Up next, we have a pair of literal hotheads, and I say that because their heads tend to be on fire a lot. Well, actually their whole body, but you get my point. It's Firestorm and the Human Torch. Let's start with the red side, featuring the hottest guy on the planet, figuratively and literally, the flashy, flirtatious member of the Fantastic Four. Ladies and gents, I give you the Human Torch, as I just said moments prior. Fun fact, did you know that the Human Torch can get as hot as 1,000 suns? Makes you wonder where the dude is packing all that heat. Then there's this guy from the blue side, the deadly and confusing fusion between an old nerd and a young jock. I'll get to that later. Anyway, give it up for Firestorm. Some of you may not know this, but Firestorm is one of the most intricate, if not confusing, characters out there. The first red flag would be the obvious fact that he's actually two people in one, a high school jock and a physicist. But don't worry, they only combine when they need to power up. If anything, what you should be worried about is Firestorm's actual power. Contrary to his name and very fiery appearance, the dude's true power has a little or really nothing to do with fire. It's transmutation. You know, the ability to transform stuff into other stuff on an atomic level or molecular level? I don't really know which one.
Come on, Gray.
Jefferson, you did it!
We did it, man.
Oh man, you got my boots wet.
Crazy, right? Makes you think that this true power of his was like an afterthought. I imagine DC realized that they had copied the Human Torch 17 years after his debut in 1961, so they had to scramble to give him something unique that had set the two heroes apart. That's 2 points to DC for being clever crooks. Now it's time for the superhero that everyone, and I do mean everyone, knows. I mean, dude is so popular, his superhero name is just 2 words that define him: Superman. Yep, Superman is so popular in mainstream, it feels like every other buff hero in a cape is a copycat. Gotta say, DC really did hit the jackpot with him back in 1938. That's why in 1969, Marvel figured that if they were gonna steal the idea from DC, they might as well go big or go home, and that mindset gave birth to one of the most powerful superheroes that graced the universe, Hyperion.
I've been analyzing this guy for weeks. His power rating's off the charts.
Just another pretty boy in a cape to me.
Flight, super strength, invulnerability, heat vision.
Now, I'm sure a lot of people thought I'd say Sentry, but in actuality, Hyperion is such a fit he's nicknamed the Marvel Superman. Besides the costume design, he's got pretty much everything Superman's got. The cape, the tights, super strength, super speed, flight, X-ray eyes, his own OP variant of heat vision called Atomic Vision. Whatever you think Soup's got, this man's packing it, and much, much more. I remember when the dude toyed with Thor like he was a noob.
Come, Hyperion. Let me show you why they call me the Thunder Rat!
I look forward to wearing it as a tribute when you're gone.
I really do love your cape.
Check it. This dude is so freakishly strong that he once held apart 2 entire universes from colliding against each other with his bare hands. And when both universes eventually blew up, he alone survived the impact unscathed. How the frick do you even build someone like that? Yeah, talk about overpowered, am I right? But that's where things start to differ from Superman. See, Hyperion was actually born an Eternal, and that pretty much makes him immortal. Which brings us to the glaring fact that sets the two apart. For someone like Hyperion who's been at the top of the food chain for all of his life, it kind of makes sense that he'd be incredibly arrogant and self-absorbed.
You destroyed your own planet when they wouldn't listen to you. I tried to teach them right from wrong. They wouldn't listen. They chose wrong. They didn't deserve me. I'll let you in on something, Hyperion. Humans aren't perfect.
Yikes, that's the biggest case of egomania I've ever seen. In contrast, Superman wouldn't even let so much as a squirrel get hurt in a monster fight. Now, this is the biggest case of goody two-shoes I've ever seen. Despite Hyperion's questionable views on justice, it's still a perfect example of copying someone's homework and making it cynical. Shame, and 2 points to Marvel for that. The good old Irish have a lot of fun things going on for their mythology. Cradle of Magic, leprechauns, huge pots of gold. Which is no surprise that Marvel and DC scoped out one of these mythologies for their own superhero catalogs and gave birth to Banshee and Silver Banshee. It's just, are they even trying at this point? On the Marvel side, we have regular old Banshee. And on DC's, we got, you're not going to believe this, Silver Banshee. Like, right off the bat, I can just tell who stole from whom. But I'm not one to point fingers till I got all the facts. Besides, it's not like I need to mention the obvious thing that they share in common. Sonic-based abilities. Basically, they scream like the actual Banshees of Irish legends. Tack that on to their very similar names, and it's deserving 2 points for theft. DC. I don't know who you were trying to fool here, but changing the gender of a character you stole in 1987, dyeing her monochrome and adding a color adjective to the name won't hide your nasty deed. Maybe they thought 20 years was a long enough wait for people to forget about Banshee's debut, but enough about that. Let's talk about boomerangs, huh? Not in a million years can I imagine boomerangs as an object of fear, but somehow the next 2 on this list make it work. Give it up for Captain Boomerang and Boomerang. The first one you may know all too well for being a skeevy, smart-ass Australian that's almost always up to no good. Captain Boomerang. Almost every time we get to see this guy, he's already in Belle Reve prison going on one Suicide Squad mission or the other to reduce his sentence. Makes you wonder just what atrocious acts of evil a guy using a boomerang is capable of.
An easy target. Well now, you're everything I like best in a woman.
Could be worse. Now, how about the other boomerang-wielding Australian bad guy called Boomerang? Frickin' really? Well, I guess if he's not meant to be an A-list villain, there's no point in putting any serious thought to his name, am I right? Especially if you suck this bad. Oh, that is so embarrassing. Totally not a good look for Marvel. Either way, both villains live up to their titles by sporting not just regular boomerangs, but special ones too. They got ones that'll slice you up, boomerangs that'll explode, ones that spew acid, and so on.
New Captain Boomerang.
Please, you can call me Captain.
This ends with you in Iron Heights. Well, look, it doesn't matter how many sticks you throw at me.
You probably have to kill me first because I'm never going back to that hellhole.
Flash, are you okay?
Not to be a critic or anything, but did he really think he was gonna hit Flash with a boomerang? In any case, a boomerang-themed villain isn't the kind of thing you'd copy and definitely not get caught for. It turns out that DC was the first to birth the idea of Captain Boomerang in 1960. While Marvel tried to pull a fast one on us with Boomerang 6 years later. Nice try, Marvel. You get a full 3 points for your efforts. If you love cats, you're gonna love these next two heroes on the list. It's Black Panther and Bronze Tiger. The first one and more popular is, of course, Black Panther.
Show off.
What can I say about Black Panther? Dude basically falls into that category of superheroes absolutely loaded with cash but still goes out to fight evil for some reason. But the whole Black Panther vibes is more than just a bored billionaire's pastime. It's a legacy passed down for generations of Wakandan royalty. So you know if you're marrying into his family, you're marrying into money. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for the other cat enthusiast hero.
Ex-CIA turned vigilante. The last is Bronze Tiger, aka Ben Turner. Possibly the greatest martial artist in the world.
Bronze Tiger. The kind of guy you marry if you're into disappearing husbands who take forever to buy milk. And no, it's not the reason you're thinking about. The dude is just a spy. And a master martial artist, too. Seriously, there's nothing this guy hasn't learned. Karate, Aikido, Kung Fu, Ninjutsu, Jiu-Jitsu, Jeet Kune Do, I don't even know that one. Silat, Hapkido, Muay Thai, and Taekwondo. Hence, he can whoop butt easily. What puts them side by side in comparison to Black Panther, you might be asking? Well, how about the fact that both heroes wear cat-themed suits? Certainly warrants an eyebrow raise. Black Panther, I can understand. Bronze Tiger? I have no idea, purely for vibes, perhaps? Turns out DC were inspired by Black Panther's character design back in 1975, 9 years after Marvel debuted him. Another point to DC. Once again, it's time for the Battle of the Machines, or should I say, half men, half machine. Men, there are a lot more cyborg heroes than I expected. And these especially similar to are Deathlock and Cyborg. Cyborg we already know as the tech whiz, the Justice League. A tech whiz that packs a ton of wicked wallop, apparently. In the other universe, we have Deathlock, a kind of watered-down version of Cyborg. Now, don't get me wrong, the guy is amazing. I mean, after everything he went through in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series, you kinda gotta admit that. First, he was a test subject for some shady biochemical experiments to create artificial mutants. This he did to make some extra cash to take care of his daughter. Then he found himself in the middle of an explosive battle between S.H.I.E.L.D. and the bad guys, and let's just say, did not end well for him.
Tell me. Tried to give it back. What did I become, Doctor? To live. You'd lost your will.
With a leg, an eye, and who knows which other organs missing, the only thing left to do was turn him into a cyborg against his will, then use him for acts of terror. In comparison, Cyborg's origin story of being involved in an accident in his dad's lab feels a bit more soft.
This thing is more important to you than your own son! Victor, stop!
The device Cyborg happened to grab in his fit of teenage angst was a Mother Box, an ancient alien supercomputer relic capable of rewriting reality and reshaping the world. Yeah. Residual energies from that and the buttload of untested alien tech the dad poured into him to save his life is what made Cyborg the guy he is today. Clearly, when it comes to sad origin stories, Deathlock takes the cake, but that's not what this video is about. When it comes to their skill sets, he can't help but pale in comparison. Sure, he's got that half-robot looks and vibes just like Cyborg, along with basic technopathy and hacking skills and a decent arsenal of firepower.
You hit him high, I punch him everywhere else. You idiots.
However, it is nothing compared to the advanced wares that Cyborg is packing. Finger lasers, rocket launchers, the works. Heck, he's even got this sonic disruptor capable of blasting baddies to smithereens.
Offensive mode. White noise cannon enabled.
He's also got boom tubes that allow him to teleport to pretty much anywhere, an ability he obviously abuses.
Hey guys, it's pizza night. Be less than 30 minutes.
Still, be that as it may, I think a solid 2 points suffice for the Copycat stealing character design and basic abilities, and surprisingly, the Copycat is Cyborg. Boy, did I not see that one coming. Turns out Deathlock debuted in 1974, 6 years before DC copied the idea. Now, let's look at the ladies of the superhero industry for a change. Apparently, Copycat Syndrome doesn't care much for any gender. Speaking of copycats, the subject of thievery now ironically involves DC's Catwoman and Marvel's counterpart, Black Cat. Awfully similar, right? Get this, in addition to looking almost the same in sexy black leather, they both have the cat theme going on. They're both thieves, have an obsession with jewelry, shiny stuff, and pretty much anything with expensive value.
Darling, you're even more gorgeous in person. The cat's eye emerald.
Which brings us to their abilities and skill sets. Both thieving anti-heroes are as agile as cats, impressively athletic and adept at acrobatics, masters at escapology, able to pick almost any lock with ease, and can definitely hold their own in a fight.
And cats don't fight spiders. Name's Black Cat. We just bat 'em around.
If anything, I think Marvel realized Black Cat was so similar to Catwoman, they figured they'd change some things up by giving her a superpower in her later years.
What are the odds of that?
Maybe bad luck could be a real thing. Okay.
The power to manipulate cause and effect, thereby granting bad luck to anyone she stares at. A pretty nifty ability if you ask me. Definitely comes in handy if you got lots of enemies. Regardless of this clever addition to Black Cat's stats, it didn't do much to hide Marvel's copycat shenanigans. And to think they had so much time between Catwoman's debut in 1940 to Black Cat's in 1979 to do so. That's a full 3 points to Marvel. It's quite easy to forget that not all superheroes are about flying, smashing things, shooting lasers and whatnot. There's water-based superheroes as well. Who can forget the likes of Aquaman and Namor? Yep, Aquaman, half Atlantean, half the embodiment of male hotness. Since his debut in 1941, the guy's made waves in the superhero business and even got himself a founding member spot on the Justice League. But get this, as popular as Aquaman is, he was actually copied from someone else who hit the prints in 1939, someone who's half human and half Atlantean. This guy. That, my friends, is Namor. A very unassuming name for a superhero, but I guess it doesn't matter if you've been the OG Sea Lord since 1939. You heard me. Aquaman was the imitation. So what if he's the king of Atlantis? Big whoop, so is Namor. That's right, Namor is the king of Marvel's version of Atlantis. What about abilities? I hear Aquaman can swim at ridiculous speeds, has superhuman strength, durability, and stamina, plus he's a formidable fighter. Alas, Namor's repertoire of skills also include all that as well, maybe even more. How about that one special skill that's almost entirely reserved for the Atlantean true king in DC? The ability to communicate and command sea creatures. Marine telepathy. And looky, Namor seems to be able to do so as well. Although not extensively portrayed as Aquaman's, every now and then we get to see Namor summoning terrifying behemoths of the sea to fight for him. In addition to that, not only is he the master of the sea, the dude can also fly. I'd like to see Aquaman pull that one off. In any case, we've already established that DC stole from Marvel back in 1941. That was 2 years after Namor made his first splash. Although they tried to change things around here and there, I'd still say that merits DC 3 points. Jeez Louise, at this rate, DC with 13 points so far might end up being the scummier thief than Marvel at 17 points already. Now on to the speedsters. No superhero universe or team would be complete without their zippy, witty contribution to crime fighting, and the two top speedsters that come to mind usually are Flash and Quicksilver. Now, everyone already knows Flash. Dude is popular for always trying to break the timeline more often than not.
So you're fast.
Then there's Quicksilver, Marvel's watered-down version of Flash, and I only say that because of what Marvel did to him in Avengers Age of Ultron.
You didn't see that coming.
Imagine that, a frackin' speedster dying to a few bullets. Dodging bullets is like Speedster 101. Heck, even non-speedsters like Batman or Spider-Man can dodge bullets. Such a shame. However, it's not a complete lost cause for Quicksilver. I mean, that one X-Men movie really made this guy shine in OP light. Now that's a Quicksilver I want to be saved by. Similarities aside, I do believe the thing that sets them aside lies in their origin and quality of speed. Origin-wise, Quicksilver was born a mutant with his abilities, while the Flash was struck by lightning and doused with chemicals. Lucky guy. As for the quality of both speedsters' speed, the versatility and superiority of Flash's is much, much better. Not only is he able to waltz around in time, past and future alike, he can also use the energy from the speed to fight and do stuff like this. Cool, right? Alas, I guess it doesn't matter how badly Marvel's messed up Quicksilver. After all, it was a pale imitation of Flash copied in 1964, then dyed blue and silver to show just how watered down he really is. Kudos to DC for nailing Flash much earlier in 1940. That's 2 points for Marvel. Up next is Captain America and Commander Steel. Everyone knows the story of the young doe-eyed lad who was skinnier than a twig yet wanted to make an impact on the world, and then America took that young lad, juiced him up with steroids, super soldier serum, tossed him a near indestructible shield, and sent him on his merry way to chase his dream. That is, in a nutshell, the story of Captain America. Truly inspiring, isn't he? You know, I hear he's got America's ass on him too. Apparently, DC was just as inspired that they created a similar superhero 2 years later in 1942. One without all the unnecessary steroid juicing, but a big shiny shield to show that they meant business. That, my friends, is Guardian. There really isn't that much to him except he was a super powerless police officer who took to the mean streets of heroism with nothing but an indestructible shield. But everyone could see what's going on here. Score 1 point to DC for the shield thing. Thankfully, they tried to be coy about it later on by reducing its size.
I am Earth's Guardian. Its secret champion. Its greatest champion.
However, as if that wasn't enough, in 1978, DC figured they could rip off Captain America again and do it better this time, and that's how they came up with Commander Steel. Unlike their first attempt with Guardian, they did away with the obvious shield and even gave the new guy super strength. Then they proceeded to design the guy's costume in a very similar fashion. Look familiar? Well, to be fair, the guy responsible for creating Commander Steel did say he was paying homage to Captain America. But that won't stop me from issuing 2 points for design and superpower theft. Altogether with Guardian's shield from before, that's 3 points to DC. A great person once said, not all superheroes wear capes. A lesser person then said, not all superheroes have superpowers. I used to think them mad, but then the likes of Green Arrow and Hawkeye proved me wrong. Now I'm very glad that someone in DC once thought to themselves, how about a superhero who's not only superpowerless, but also uses Stone Age weapons?
Get in the car!
Missed. I don't know what's with billionaires and fighting crime on the side. In fiction, must have quite a lot of time on their hands. And yes, if you didn't already know, Green Arrow, or Oliver Queen, is a billionaire. Maybe not Bruce Wayne level billionaire, but filthy rich nonetheless. Then there's Clint Barton, a working man, one that was not swaddled with billions since birth and yet puts himself out there to save the world anyway. And true to his moniker, Hawkeye, the dude's got almost supernatural eyesight. One so good that you'd think he has eyes at the back of his head or something.
Got a lot of stray stuff in your tail. Stark. Well, they can't bank worth a damn.
Just trying to keep him off the streets.
Find a tight corner.
Can't tell me that ain't unnatural. But if you live in the same universe as gods, mutants, and aliens, I suppose accurately shooting at things you can't really see is natural enough. So when it comes down to who's the OG and who's the cheap copy, it pains me to say that Green Arrow did come first in 1941, predating Hawkeye by 23 whole years. Yes, money can even buy you early existence. 3 more points to Marvel. I doubt there's anyone on the planet who hasn't at one point in their life wanted to actually experience the mysticism of magic. Makes me real jealous of the next 2 guys, Dr. Fate and Dr. Strange. One of them was a renowned archaeologist, an expert at Egyptology with a bunch of doctorates, and hands down the only guy that could pull off wearing a golden helmet.
Order, the conquerors of chaos. Child, your mayhem on this world ends now. A fate worse than death.
Dr. Fate. I just love this guy. Arguably one of the best and most underrated DC characters out there. Then on the Marvel end, we have another personal favorite of mine. A doctor with hands so gifted he was heralded as a miracle neurosurgeon, a mysticist whose magics are so strange, it makes his name look normal by comparison. There's just no way you can't love Doctor Strange. The dude is just so awesome. And try as Marvel might to hide it, they couldn't mask all the similarities between the two, starting with the obvious, their use of the mystic arts.
Do you have some kind of special spell to sober him up?
They say sometimes the biggest problems require the simplest of solutions, like summoning a goblet of water. I imagine that's not what the Helmet of Fate granting him his magic was meant to be used for, which, speaking of, contains the spirit of Naboo, a Lord of Order. Either way, I think I like Doctor Strange's magic more. It's just stranger. It works by channeling eldritch powers and energies from mystical dimensions and entities rather than one source. I know, a bit confusing. It even bamboozled the great Thanos, too. Then there's the fact that they're both doctors. Fate, originally an archaeologist who stumbled upon the helmet after a dig accident, and Strange, formerly a neurosurgeon who stumbled upon the masters of the mystic arts after his car accident. It's giving similar origin story vibes. So that's another point there. As for looks, I can't quite say that they're alike. I mean, one of them wears a helmet. If anything, they just got the cape thing going on for them. Not sure that merits an extra point. So all in all, that leaves Marvel with 2 points. Pains me to say this, but Doctor Strange may have been the copy. Apparently, he made his mystical debut back in 1963, 23 years after Dr. Fate was running the magic show. Next up, we have a pair of heroes that would be nothing alike save for their incredible tech savvy. Iron Man and Rocket Red. On the DC side of the ring is a guy not many people know about. Heck, I'd never even heard about the guy till today. Introducing Rocket Red, a Russian hero with a flair for robotics and peculiar naming. very Mother Russian color-wise. Anywho, on the Marvel side, we have someone who needs no introduction. Billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, genius among geniuses, a hero among heroes, the very bane of the Mad Titan himself. Honestly, I could spend hours listing all this guy has accomplished, and it still wouldn't be enough. Just usher in the legend already. Now that's what I call a superhero. The entrance, the flair, the Armani. What more is necessary? What? Oh yeah, what makes Tony Stark aka Iron Man similar to Rocket Red? Well, looking at the OG comic versions of the two, I have to admit that the semblance is quite uncanny. If I didn't know any better, I'd have thought that those suits of armor were exactly the same. However, looking the same doesn't mean that they run the same. Iron Man's suit runs on clean fusion power from a miniature arc reactor, while Rocket Red's runs on nuclear power upgraded with apocalyptic tech. Nice. Anyway, beyond fighting crime in suits of armor and a similar paint job, can't say these two have any more in common. So that leaves DC with 1 point for nabbing the Iron Man idea in 1987, 25 years after his debut. In other news, seeing as there's already been similar fire-based heroes in both Marvel and DC universes, it's only fair to expect the same thing for ice-based guys. I'm talking about Iceman and Icicle. Some of you may know Iceman from the X-Men movies, where he's kinda nerfed. Others would know him from other sources where he's super cool, no pun intended, and pretty OP. Imagine being powerful enough to make a runway of ice in the middle of a frackin' ocean and then still have the juice to catch and freeze a speedster mid-run. Frozone got nothing on that. Which is not surprising because the dude is an Omega level mutant with the ability to lower temperature to absolute zero at his peak. That guy is a certified monster capable of transforming himself to not only ice, but liquid and gas. How any of that is remotely possible for someone with ice powers as a base, I do not know. With these fancy overpowered abilities Iceman has stashed into his sleeve, it got me wondering how the unknown ice guy from DC would compare. Guys, meet Icicle, a very, very watered-down version of Iceman, pun intended. Honestly, there's not much to say about the guy other than he's a physicist who got his powers after tangling with an experimental freezy thingy. That's as basic as origin stories go. And that's not the only thing that's basic. The same applies to his powers.
Is it me or is it getting really cold in here? Run!
Guess he too has stopped a speedster in his tracks, albeit unintentionally. All in all, I guess Icy looks and basic abilities are all they got going for them, which is enough for a full 3 points. And the craziest thing about these villains is that the less popular one, Icicle, made his first appearance in 1947, 16 years before Marvel copied him and made a way better version. Next on the list of stolen ideas is one that almost slipped right past me, Scandal Savage in X-23. You guys remember Wolverine's maybe sorta kinda daughter from that one movie where he died?
Last ride.
Yeah, that one. Laura, was it? Better known as X-23 because she was one of the many attempts at cloning Wolverine. Thanks to that, she inherited all the cool aspects of Wolverine without the nasty downsides. Take her healing factor, for example. Just as quick and effective as Prime Wolverine. Then there's the claws, too. She's only got 2 instead of 3, but let's face it, 2 claw-sized holes in your guts is guaranteed to unalive you just as well as 3.
Move! Go!
Also, did I mention that the claws were coated with adamantium, making it super sharp and durable like her dad's, but unlike Daddy, she didn't get the whole skeleton adamantium draft that slowly killed him thing?
This is what it feels like.
Man, that scene still gets me. Anyway, what I didn't know until recently was that another immortal guy had a daughter of his own, just like X-23. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Scandal Savage, daughter to the nefarious Vandal Savage. I see what they did with the names. Nice one. You know, looking at Scandal and X-23 side by side, I could definitely see why people would think one's a copy of the other. And what are the odds that both of them would have immortal dads? Then I found out that Scandal had been rumored to have inherited her dad's immortality in the form of a healing factor, one strong enough to regrow shot-out organs. As if that wasn't enough, I spied the retractable wrist claws there she uses for combat and noticed just how incredibly similar it is to X-23's. Coincidence? I think not. Someone did some lazy copying, and after some snooping around, I found it to be DC. Turns out X-23 hit the prints way back in 2003, unlike Scandal, who came copying her way through in 2005. Now that right there is a real scandal if I've ever seen one. So did you know that there were 2 Scarecrows? 2 Scarecrows, as I live and breathe. I bet if I put them side by side, you'd never be able to tell which one is from DC and which one is Marvel. Here, try your luck. If you said the one on the left is DC and the one on the right is from Marvel, you're wrong. It's the other way around. I think. Heck, did I mix them up? That doesn't matter. What matters is what more the shameless copycat stole from the other villain. In addition to looking exactly alike, ragged burlap masks and all, both villains share a twisted love for inducing fear in their victims. Marvel's Scarecrow does this by secreting a fear-inducing pheromone, while DC's Scarecrow relies on the special blend of fear toxin he cooks up in his lab.
Turned it on. It uses focus microwaves to vaporize the enemy's water supply.
Beyond that, both villains have lived remotely different origin stories, the DC one being a former psychologist turned criminal, and the Marvel one being a former criminal contortionist turned even more criminal. Still, the appalling level of copying is way too much to not dish out a full 3 points to the copycat. As for who that is, Scarecrow, you're the copycat. No, not you, DC Scarecrow. I meant Marvel Scarecrow, who thought 23 years was enough time to copy ideas in 1964 without anyone noticing. Unfortunately, that blatant style of copying off the other universe does not end there. After much investigation, I came across another anomaly of 2 enchantresses. Now, I know the enchantress most people have heard or seen a lot is the spooky one from the Suicide Squad.
Enchantress.
Alas, she ain't the only one. You see, on the Marvel side of the spectrum, there lies another powerful sorceress with the same name.
Thor's hammer!
What's it doing?
Thor wouldn't just leave his hammer. What's it doing there?
Why, it's my footrest. One of a kind.
Enchantress.
Isn't it divine?
You know what's pretty ironic? This is actually the Enchantress I grew up knowing. She's this goddess, or specifically an Asgardian, who dabbled a lot in seductive mind control magic. Magic she used to seduce and steal other people's magics. Plus, she had this really huge fixation on Thor, and I do mean huge.
Ever since I cast an enchantment on him. Thor has been my favorite plaything, and he's perfect. Because he does whatever I want him to.
Yeah, classic way to win a man's heart. Spells. Anyway, her DC namesake, on the other hand, was more of a mature sorceress with more mature ideals of ruling the world, as opposed to keeping hot boy toy gods.
Once you and your armies are gone, my darkness will spread across this world, and it will be mine to rule.
This enchantress apparently started out as an unknown magical being that merged with a freelance artist, June, who she helps fight monsters and whatnot. That was until her more villainous side started showing little by little, and she had to be kept in check with the Suicide Squad. Not that it stops her from going all evil and chaotic every now and then.
Join me or die for the last time.
Still, despite both Enchantresses' differing origins, their names, the magical nature of their abilities, and even designs are almost entirely too similar. It definitely warrants a full 3 points to the copycat in this case, being DC. Sure, they had a more compelling Enchantress in my opinion, but it was still Marvel's homework from 1964 that they copied 2 years later. Moving on, we got the Silver Surfer and Black Racer. It's common knowledge in the superhero universe is that when you become insanely powerful on a cosmic level, you stop doing certain things yourself, like going around telling whole planets you're gonna kill them, or eat them in Galactus' case. So you do what every other lazy, fat frick or cosmic entity does, you find a stooge, herald, or avatar if you want to make it sound all fancy, and that's exactly what the next two on this list are. Glorified stooges.
I herald your end. I herald his beginning. I herald Galactus.
The silver beauty you just saw is the Silver Surfer. The female one a lot of people seem to hate for some reason. Said people seem to love this one much better.
Oh, that is cool. Go off.
Glossing over which one is actually better, my points are on the shiniest one. The Silver Surfer certainly stands out as a really unique character, especially with the matching surfboard. Yeah, there's someone else on the DC side of the spectrum that can be compared to him, or her, them. Anyway, that someone is named the Black Racer. Black Racer, weird name by the way, is what most people consider the avatar of the Source, the metaphysical source of all that exists. Some also call Black Racer the avatar of death, or death is an inevitability. Apparently the guy's like toxic cancer juju times a million, just one touch and you die. Not even the likes of Darkseid can escape him. Either way, the striking resemblance between Black Racer and Silver Surfer is undeniable at this point, starting with their cosmically powered modes of traversal. Silver Surfer's got a surfboard, Black Racer's got a pair of skis. Clever? Or is it just silly? You decide. Then there's the fact that they're both stooges for cosmic entities, like I said before, empowered to do their lord's biddings, which almost entirely consists of bringing death to a lot of people.
Are you the protectors of this world?
Yes, we are.
Your world will be consumed by the Devourer. Your planet is now marked for death. There is nothing you can do to stop him.
And the last similarity people don't know is that they were both created by the same legendary artist, Jack Kirby. Yep, gasp you should. As for who came first and who's the cheap copy, Silver Surfer takes the cake, debuting in 1966, with Black Racer coming in 5 years later. Meaning DC gets all 3 points for copying. Although now that I think about it, is it really copying if it's still your work? Up next, we have the guys that have notoriously labeled themselves as the one-man army in their respective universes. Multiplex and Multiple Man. Still no clue who I'm talking about? Maybe this will jog your memory. That, my friends, is DC's Multiplex, a physicist that was caught up in a nuclear explosion, granting him the ability to split himself into multiple duplicates. Then there's Multiple Man, the Marvel sneaky counterpart that's an exact duplicate in itself.
Okay, I give up.
You see what I mean? Then again, unlike Multiplex, Multiple Man's duplicates have shown more signs of autonomy, sometimes even refusing to merge back with the original, but that's all comic talk. Personally, this is the kind of power I'd abuse the heck out of, using all my clones to do all my stressful biddings and reaping all the experience and glory in the end. A win-win, baby. Anywho, this level of detail given to Multiple Man's abilities showed that he is in fact the true OG one-man army and has been since 1975. DC's Multiplex is just a cheap copy that came 3 years later. I believe that means 3 points going to DC. We have finally reached halftime, guys, and so far things are tight between DC and Marvel, with both tying at 30 points each. The polls are going to be closing soon, people, so place your bets quick because this battle's getting heated up. As a kid, I always thought that just having wings and flying were the coolest superpowers anyone could have. Part of me still does. Just slap a pair of wings on a mean-looking guy and you got yourself a dope frackin' character. Now, there's the issue of who did it better, Marvel with Angel or DC with Hawkman, and more importantly, in this video, who stole from the other. Personally, I don't think it's Marvel. I mean, look at Angel, he practically looks like an innocent, well, angel. Now that is the body face of the product copycat thief, right? Sorry, I need to take a second. Maybe we should be setting our accusing sights on Hawkman, even though I really don't want to right now.
Thousands of years ago, my real name is Katar Hall. You and I are the reincarnation of lovers who died here. But you can call me Hawkman.
Yep, with that mean warrior look, he's certainly not convincing anyone he's the innocent type. And more importantly, his wings aren't white. That's how you know he's a bad guy. I watch Supernatural. Anyway, winged looks aside, it's easy to look past the not-so-obvious traits both heroes share, like the fact that they're both founding members of their respective teams, X-Men for Angel, and for Hawkman, Justice League. Or was it Justice Society? Doesn't matter. Lastly, they're both filthy rich. Angel apparently comes from generational wealth. Good heavens, frickin' looks, body, wings of an angel, now money? Is there nothing this guy doesn't have? Loving parents, probably.
Dad, can we talk about this for a second?
Everything's going to be fine. We've talked about it, son. I'll be over soon. Warren, calm down.
I can't do this. I can't do this. Wait.
Yes, you can. Just relax, son.
Guess you can't have it all. Hawkman, on the other hand, also comes from generational wealth in a different sort of way. Thanks to his curse of reincarnation, dude has practically had a millennia to stock up on assets over various lifetimes. So, there you have it. 3 solid reasons for 3 solid points to whoever stole from who. And it shocks me to say this, but Marvel is the thief. Yep, stole the idea right from underneath DC's shoes in '63, a whole 23 years after Hawkman's first appearance. To think that they tried to use Angel's angelic looks to try and cover it up. We're better than that. Angel come. Moving on, we got Mogo and Ego. Heroes and villains come in all shapes and sizes. Yay for inclusivity, but did you know that they also came in planets? Like whole planets. The first one I ever heard about was from the DC universe, Mogo. And believe it or not, this planet is a Green Lantern. I know what you're trying to look around for what fingers the ring is on, but apparently it doesn't work that way. Point is, Mogo possesses more than enough will to use a ring, and he's considered the biggest hitter on the Green Lantern Corps. Strange as it is already having a planet as a superhero, Marvel just had to have a planet of their own as a villain.
Wow. Welcome, everyone, to my world. No larger than your Earth's moon.
You have your own planet?
Come on.
Humility. I like it.
I know he looks like a human, but do not be fooled. He is the planet Ego. Just as its name suggests, he's got an ego so big he thinks his celestial duty is to conquer other planets by assimilating them.
I need to fulfill life's one true me.
What a greedy fricker of a planet. But at least that's the only thing he has in common with a good guy like Mogo. The planet part, not the greedy fricker part. I think that warrants just 1 point for the stolen inspiration, DC. Yeah, I see you stealing ideas 19 years after they've already been done. That's right, Marvel did it first in 1966. Certain villains are worth their weight in copycat gold. And when you think of the biggest and baddest villains in each universe, it doesn't get any more eviler than Thanos and Darkseid. Standing in for DC, weighing who knows how many frackin' pounds and an insatiable hunger for conquering worlds, it's the terror of the new gods, Darkseid.
I am death. I am entropy. I am Darkseid.
Green Lantern's got this.
Then in Marvel's corner is none other than the mutant spawn of the Eternals himself, the guy with an unhealthy obsession with jewel rocks and massive mass murder. It's the Mad Titan, Thanos. So right off the bat, you can just tell there's similarities between Thanos and Darkseid. They're both huge, looming villains that look like they could absolutely frickin' knock your socks off even without powers. They're both bald. Trust me on this, on both those things. I've seen Thanos fight a couple times. And that's what he can do without the Infinity Gauntlet and stones to boot. Anywho's scary appearance and base abilities might seem like the only thing these two villains have in common, but Marvel can't deny they outright copied from DC in 1973, because I got them dead to rights. You see, when the editor saw the early works of Thanos, he explicitly told the artist that if he was going to steal from DC's New Gods, he should copy Darkseid that debuted years earlier in 1970. So I guess that means 3 full points for Marvel for being hardcore copycats again. You ever seen a rabid dog in person? Now picture all that ferociousness in a human being, then multiply it by 10. That's what Marvel and DC were gunning for when they made these next pair of villains, Tracer and Sabretooth. I'll start with a popular one. The guy's been a bane in Wolverine's backside since the OG days, Sabretooth.
Your brother. Sabretooth.
Ready to die.
Oh yeah, I remember that guy. Always losing to Wolverine back in the day. So much so, his healing factor couldn't stop him from fading into obscurity. Poor guy. Person I don't remember is a guy called Tracer. Makes sense why I don't remember him. Seems like the kind of guy that loses a lot. Still, similar build and gruff-looking appearance, same feral vibes, and even similar brownish costume. These guys could be brothers. And get this, you know, Sabretooth boasts about having the same or even better healing factor than Wolverine.
Victor, please.
You can't beat him.
You can't let him go.
Give me the adamantium.
You would never survive the operation. Testing.
We had a deal!
Well, guess who's also got a healing factor? I want to be Tracer. In fact, the only thing he doesn't seem to share with Sabretooth is his wicked-looking cybernetic blade implants, which is why I wasn't surprised to find out that he was a cheap copy DC cooked up in 1990. You'd think after 13 years since Sabretooth's first appearance they'd try to change up their copywork a bit, but no, 3 points to DC. Another set of villains that people tend to liken to each other is Ultron and Brainiac, and I can definitely see why. This is Ultron on a typical Tuesday.
I'm going to bring about peace in our time. To every corner of the universe.
And this is Brainiac on pretty much any day of the week.
Claim Metropolis for my collection. You're my 10,000th city. Congratulate me.
Yep, they're both androids with a severe case of God complex and complicated love for evil, death, and destruction. Yeah, I think that just about sums it up. Which is kind of ironic, because both villains were built for the opposite of what they currently stand for. For Ultron, his original purpose was peace on Earth, until it realized that humans were by nature the opposite of peaceful beings and sought to correct that.
With the weight of your failure, my swift and terrible sword and the Earth will crack. You, Avengers, you are my meteor. Purge me from your computer's turn my own. It means nothing. When the dust settles, flesh against me will be metal. The only thing living in this world.
As for Brainiac, his earliest appearances often depicted him as the last survivor of the dead planet Colu, or a super-intelligent android created for the preservation of said planet. Alas, the only way he concluded that could be done was to shrink hundreds of planets into globes to replenish his own world.
These orbs contain all the knowledge I've collected. While you've been living here on Earth, I have roamed the universe. Each represents all the recorded information from a single planet.
What a nice way to phrase literally compressing the lives of bajillions into little shiny orbs. Anywho, in order to do what these two baddies typically love to do, they'd of course have the requisite skill set necessary. Super intelligence, strength, resilience, technopathy, self-evolution, digital immortality, the works. Oh, and don't forget an army of machines to do their biddings as well. So with their similar origins of purpose, basic abilities as souped-up androids, and obnoxious god complex for machines created by lesser lifeforms, these clankers could be considered one and the same. The only difference besides their looks is their approach to evil. Brainiac focuses on greedy preservation, while Ultron is hell-bent on complete destruction and evolution. Which is why I'm going to give Marvel 2 points for copying and changing things up. Alas, DC was the first to cook up Brainiac in 1958, with Marvel following up with Ultron 10 years later. A copycat situation I never quite agreed with was Batman and Daredevil. Like, how the hell do you look at those guys and say, oh my, they look like twins? Nothing. They look nothing alike. Then it hit me. What if the similarities lie beneath just the looks? And the answers came flooding to me. The same way Daredevil prowls the streets of Hell's Kitchen at night on his vigilante crusade, terrorizing bad guys.
It's not just the boy. I need you to know why I'm hurting you. I'm doing this because I enjoy it.
It's the same way Batman loves to dish out the fear of death to his victims.
I never knew. I swear to God.
Swear to me!
Nothing beats the sound of justice dangling from a rope at 2 a.m. Interestingly, both heroes also share a similar adherence to the no-killing rule. But be that as it may, I didn't feel too convinced that they were the perfect pair to match up in a copycat fight, so I dug deeper, and you would not believe who I found.
Who are you?
I'm Nighthawk.
Just as he said in that "I'm Batman" kind of voice, give it up for Nighthawk. Not only is he closer in looks to Batman than Daredevil, he's also one of the few guys that can give the Avengers a run for their money with enough prep time, just like Batsy would with the Justice League. In addition to that, Nighthawk is an adept martial artist, employs the use of gadgets, and his version of batarangs. Oh, and did I forget to mention that he's a skilled tactician too?
Falcon, look out!
Captain America's instinctive reflexes could be exploited against him.
And get this, Nighthawk's alter ego, Kyle Richmond, is just as similar as Batman's alter ego, Bruce Wayne. They're both lucky frickers born into incredibly wealthy families, and they use that incredible wealth to fund their vigilante lifestyle. A little too on the nose, if you ask me. Which is why I have no qualms dishing Marvel a full 3 points. That's not only for copying Batman with Daredevil in 1964, but if you don't think that Daredevil's a copy of Batman, they still unashamedly made a very obvious copy 5 years later with Nighthawk. Meanwhile, Batman has been the OG billionaire vigilante since 1939. Let's take a little break from superheroes for a minute, focus on a slightly bigger picture, super teams. Both Marvel and DC universes have a bunch of them, but our focus lies on the Justice League and the Avengers. For DC, it's a team so large in the comics and animations that it might as well be a frackin' company. Heck, they had to build their base in space for heaven's sake. Give it up for the Justice League. Then for Marvel, it's a ragtag yet lovable group consisting of humans, experimented on humans, shrinking humans, hulking humans, and a god. It's Earth's mightiest heroes, the Avengers. Now you're probably wondering what's so similar between these two. Well, it'd be unfair to start picking at the similarities between members of both teams, so I'm gonna stick to the teams themselves. First of all, both teams are funded by a super rich member of the team that's super powerless, but still kicks butt. In the Justice League's case, it's Batman. As for the Avengers, it's this guy.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
The second similarity to consider is that both teams are led by a certain blue and red themed member, one with high moral instincts and reasoning. Ring any bells for you? Like this guy, for example?
All right, listen up. Anything gets more than 3 blocks out, you turn it back. Stark, you've got the perimeter. Barton, I want you on that roof. Eyes on everything. Call out patterns and strays. Until we can close that portal, our priority is containment.
Or even this guy? Then lastly, both teams are founded following an alien invasion. For the Justice League, it was right after Steppenwolf and the Parademons tried to use Earth as their playground.
Is this guy still bothering you?
For the Avengers, it was right after Loki opened a portal for the Chitauri and then proceeded to get the butt whooping of a lifetime.
Enough! I am a god, you dull creature. You are all of you beneath me. And I will not be bullied by that.
Puny god.
Ah, good times indeed. So from the looks of it, both teams have more in common than anyone would think. Anyone that isn't looking closely enough, though. Ain't that right, Marvel? You thought I wouldn't notice just because you waited 3 years after Justice League's debut in 1960 and I wasn't born. What a sneak. 3 points to Gryffindor. I mean Marvel. Let's play a game, shall we? I'm going to say a word and you immediately call out the superhero that comes to mind, okay? Flaming Skull. Okay, right off the bat, I threw you a curveball because those were 2 words. But if you said Ghost Rider, you lose. Ghost Rider shouldn't have come to your mind, you frackin' weirdo. The real right answer, because there was one, is Atomic Skull. You know, this guy? Hard to imagine that that's your everyday lab scientist who went through a failed radium treatment experiment. Okay, actually, that's not that hard to imagine. After all, speaking in terms of DC World origin stories, that is like a dime a dozen. However, Marvel did something truly unique with Ghost Rider. A regular guy who makes a deal with Satan to save his father, then becomes a walking embodiment of hellfire out to purge the world of sinners? I mean, what the frick? Ghost Rider. Apparently it does. If I knew you could get a sweet ride out of selling your soul to the devil, I'd have signed up for a sweet flaming Bugatti. Kidding. It'd be a Lambo. Anywho, as far as copying is concerned, the only lookalikes I see between these two is the signature Skull on Fire looks. Ability-wise, these two couldn't be further away from similar. While Atomic Skull is all about that radioactive energy blast he absorbed during his cliche origin story accident, Ghost Rider, on the other hand, has the much cooler power to manipulate frickin' hellfire, pimp any vehicle, living or mechanical, into a sweet ride and dish out the penance stare. Feel their pain. And in case you've forgotten what that is, the penance stare is this overpowered ability that makes the target feel and experience every ounce of pain they've caused others in their entire lifetime. As such, it's not surprising to hear that Ghost Rider debuted first in 1972, while Atomic Skull came 4 years later. Meaning 1 point goes to DC for copying Ghost Rider's looks and slapping a different paint job on Atomic Skull. There are a handful of villains in this world that are insanely arrogant and actually have the guts to back it up. Take, for example, the likes of Dr. Doom and Lord Havoc. And the one that actually does it best, in my opinion, is Dr. Victor Von Doom. Dang, even the name alone screams insane arrogance.
For my face is the last you shall ever see. Look upon me and tremble. I am Doom.
Now that is what I call a true villain. Forget the likes of Thanos or whoever the frick. So he killed half of all living things in the universe. Big whoop. Did he look and sound as deliciously evil as Dr. Doom while doing it? No. Anywho, turns out people like me aren't the only people in awe of Dr. Doom's villainy. DC was too. In fact, they loved the guy so much, they had to make their own version 28 years later in 1990. And the result of all that copying is this nobody. Ladies and gents, I give you Lord Havoc. For all the arrogance and god complex copied from Dr. Doom, Lord Havoc couldn't really make it past the comics. But I must admit, DC really scored with the name. And as far as likeness goes, not only did they nab Dr. Doom's looks with the gothic full body armor and cape vibe, they also went ahead to give the guy similar powers. Everyone knows Dr. Doom is famous for being a tech whiz and an expert at mystical arts. That's like having the best of both worlds. But then DC had to give that to Lord Havoc too, with his mech suit of armor and the magical lightning axe of Wundajin. Then there's the little fact that both villains are apparently dictators of their own little world. In Dr. Doom's case, that's Latveria. For Lord Havoc, it kinda differs. Sometimes it's an alternate timeline Russia, other times it's a place called Kravia, and at one point, even the moon. All things considered though, I am pretty sure I speak for everyone when I say I'll stick with the original that debuted in 1962, not the copy from 28 years later. And for DC, that means another full 3 points. I know I'm not supposed to say this out loud, but villains are arguably the cooler characters. I mean, you can't look at Magneto or Dr. Polaris and tell me I'm wrong. I mean, guys, one of them is the only dude that can rock a helmet on a 3-piece suit. Magneto, Marvel's master of magnetism. Tell me, does a title get any cooler than that? I'll tell you the answer. It's no. What's even cooler is the crazy feats my guys pulled off. He once uprooted the San Francisco Bridge, and at one point lifted up an entire baseball stadium. Possibly the craziest thing he's done is black out the entire Earth. Such power. Imagine what I could do with it. I could do anything. I could have it all. Try not to become evil challenge. It's just this whole video for me. Anyway, Magneto is strangely not the only one out there with the awesome powers of magnetism. There's someone else across the universal fence in DC's yard, cleverly named Dr. Polaris. You know, if I were colorblind, I'd think I was looking at the same person-ish. The different helmet here is a dead giveaway, though. Other than that, powers, abilities, the whole shebang, everything's the same.
You're threatening us. I'm a ferrokinetic.
Yes, including their origin story. Although the details of his origins are a bit unclear, it would seem that Dr. Polaris' powers were as a result of a lousy experiment, go figure. And although Magneto was born a mutant, he was still experimented on back in his childhood.
Ich sehe bis 3, wenn du die Münze nicht bewegst. Und du bewegst die Münze. 1. Verstehst du?
Well, I guess it was more torture than experiments, but anyway. That makes this level of thievery deserving of a full 3 points, and shockingly, Marvel is the big thief this go around. I know, I find it hard to believe myself, but apparently Dr. Polaris actually debuted a couple months before Magneto back in 1963. So I guess kudos to Marvel for copying and making the better villain. Oh man, I'm feeling a little peckish, so I don't know why I yawned. Could totally eat an elephant right about now, or maybe the world. Yep, that's the sort of thing you'd expect to hear from the next guys on this list. Galactus and Imperiex. From their names alone, you'd know I'm talking about major league villains. Villains that are literally out of this world. Villains that eat entire planets for dinner. And the first of these two villains is one who's known for his unquenchable hunger, Galactus.
The Devourer of Worlds honors you.
As big and bad as Galactus may look, it isn't quite fair to judge him for going around eating entire worlds here and there. The dude can't help it. He's just cursed with an unending bottomless stomach. Typically nothing, and I do mean nothing, stops him from getting what he wants. Maybe except the Fantastic Four on a couple of occasions. Then there's Imperiex, DC's variation of Galactus.
Tonight, we erase their past, our future! One final battle will determine control of this galaxy. All hail Imperiex.
Okay, so the guy may seem pretty unassuming compared to Galactus, but that's because the animations don't do him justice. What you're looking at might as well be the living embodiment of the Big Bang. Pure energy that's only kept together and contained in an armor suit thing. Moving on to what ties in with Galactus though, how about the fact that they're both cosmic archetype villains? Like I said earlier, they're villains that are completely out of this world. Not to mention that they both have an appetite for devouring worlds. Then there's the tidbit point that both villains typically employ the service of Scrooges to scout planets before devouring. For Imperiex, it's these little versions of himself he calls probes.
Terrific.
And for Galactus, it's typically the unwilling victims he snatches away from planets marked for destruction. In return for being Galactus' herald, he spares the planet they come from. And get this, the position even comes complete with a makeover and a cool space surfboard. Pretty sweet deal if you ask me.
He turned you into this.
Although, now that I think about it, I feel like if Galactus and Imperiex forego the whole Herald and probe shtick, they'd be able to devour more planets without much resistance. I mean, all that warning planets before their doom thing is kind of the reason the good guys been able to stop them. Just saying. Anywho, altogether, I think that tallies up nicely to a full 3 points to DC for copying Galactus in the year 2000. 34 years after the OG Planet Eater ate his first planet. In a universe where mutants, aliens, cosmic entities, and whatever you can imagine exist, there's also gonna be demons. Demons like Lucifer and Trigon. Demons that would trick you into selling them your soul.
Johnny, what if I could help your dad? Give him back his health. What if I could make him better? Would you be willing to make a deal?
Name your price.
The particularly skeevy demonic conman is Lucifer, known to be one of the strongest demons in Marvel history. Capable of a plethora of demonic abilities like creating interdimensional portals, image projection, demonic possession, mystical force blasts, illusion casting, shift shaping, matter manipulation, raising the dead, manipulating said dead. The list goes on. Point is, he's a pretty powerful demon you do not want to mess with, much like another demon on the DC side. That, my friends, is Trigon, the beloved father of one of our favorite Teen Titans, Raven.
Watch your tongue, ungrateful girl. You will be a part of this, child. Look at yourself.
I guess beloved father's a bit of a stretch, huh? Anyway, that's the kind of thing you'd expect from a demon who conquered his first planet at the age of 1. Yeah, little Trigon here was a menace right from the get-go. Apparently, the guy destroyed everything in sight right after he popped out of mommy. If you think that's terrible, though, watch what he does to his wife for running away with Raven. Anywho, as far as powers are concerned, just chuck everything up I put down for Lucifer, but with a little extra juice, I guess. That already nails a similarity between him and Lucifer. Another would be that they're both up there in the whole demon physiology and heritage thing, making that 3 points for DC for their demonic copying in 1980. 4 years after Lucifer's debut. In their defense, though, they did a fine job of improving the copied work by making him a hardcore son of a gun. Growing up, there were very few things I never joked around with. Ice cream, chocolate ice cream, and Spider-Man. So to find out there's a DC variant of Spider-Man swinging around like nobody's business and calling himself the Black Spider was unsettling. Much worse is the possibility that Spider-Man might even be the copy. Oh, please don't say it is so. Nah, it can't be. The guy is amazing. Spectacular, even. I believe there's no one on Earth who doesn't know a thing or two about Spider-Man. Average genius kid got bit by a radioactive spider, possesses god-level humor. Not to mention he's put away a lot of nasty baddies while handling the nightmare that's high school. With that in mind, I'm sure everyone's more interested in who this mystery DC variant of Spider-Man is. Well, first of all, his name is Black Spider.
I don't suppose you'd let me finish off Jones and go about my web-slinging way? I got nothing against you archers. Not a chance.
And as you can imagine, he's got the whole basic Spider-Man package abilities going for him too. Only exception being that his abilities are completely tech-based rather than natural. His outfit may look brooding and a lot different from Spider-Man's typical red and blue, but let's not forget that Spidey's got a ton of different costume designs that could easily match Black Spider's, case in point. Still, I did some digging and I noticed even more atrocious similarities, just like with how our beloved Spider-Man became the friendly neighborhood vigilante after his uncle's death, which was kind of his fault. Black Spider does the same thing after his father's death, which he 100% caused. Although it's quite important to note that his dark and heavy personality greatly differs from Spidey's. Apparently losing not just your dad but your wife and kid too would do that to a person. It sure as hell makes sense why he has no qualms killing bad guys.
You were warned, Mr. Jones. I'm sorry. You know how it is. I'm on deadline.
Please, please, not in front of my daughter.
No one likes a crusading reporter. And so are you.
Dark, brooding personality aside, everything about his design, powers, and origins feel like a complete ripoff of Spider-Man. And it turns out to be true with Spidey. My OG Spidey making his first appearance in 1962, DC had enough time to steal the idea and make a gloomier version in 1976. Phew. That's a full 3 points to them for trying to ruin my childhood memories. Since we're having a field day with animal-themed heroes and villains, I figured it wouldn't be fair to overlook a pair as obvious as night and day, Gorilla Man and Gorilla Grodd. I don't mean to state the completely obvious, but they are both sentient, super intelligent gorillas. It doesn't really get more obvious than that, honestly. Thankfully, though, it seems to be all that they actually share in common. I've gone through the data, and nothing else really stands out. Is it their abilities? All versions of Gorilla Man are more or less physical fighters that favor firearms over anything else. On the other hand, Grodd may as well be considered the gorilla version of Charles Xavier. On top of that, he's a scary genius who's also got telekinetic powers for some reason.
Sentinel, help me! Help!
I can hear you in my head. You are telepathic. Please.
Rest assured, he did not kill the poor guy. Grodd is not a fan of guns, or at least he claims not to be. That definitely sets him aside from Gorilla Man. And it proves that the only thing DC did copy was the gorilla aspect of Gorilla Man, and gave their version of superpowers. Yep, even though Grodd is the cooler one, Gorilla Man debuted first in 1954, with Grodd following close behind in 1959. That's 1 point for DC. And that brings DC closer to being the brand who's stolen more, currently at 48 points, while Marvel retains some dignity with an alarming 47. In the ever-inexhaustive list of animal-themed heroes and villains is a pair of women you wouldn't survive a catfight with. I'm talking about Cheetah and Tigra. Need I even bother with these two? I mean, right off the bat, they already look incredibly similar, except for the spots and stripes. Not that you'd notice that in a fight, really. Ability-wise, it's also pretty much the same thing. Superhuman strength, speed, cat-like reflexes, and senses, etc. Although I'll say that Cheetah typically employs more speed than Tigra would. I hear her speed is even fast enough to compete with those who possess the Speed Force. Crazy, right? I know, and get this, her attacks are even strong enough to penetrate Kryptonian invulnerability. That I almost didn't believe, but if you consider that the origin of her powers are entirely mystical, it does make more sense. Magic has always been a sort of a sour spot for Superman. How about Tigra, though? Any noteworthy capabilities? Well, first of all, the origin of her powers are just as mystical as Cheetah's, but with a little flavor of science. Doesn't make her any less of a formidable fighter than her DC counterpart, though.
I wanted a real workout.
Tigra, why didn't you say so?
So the big question is, how many points does the copycat get? Copycat, get it? I don't get paid enough. Anywho, with similar feline designs, similar cat-like abilities, and even similar mystical origins, I say a full 3 points is deserving for Marvel's Tigra. It is what they get for stealing ideas in 1972, 29 years after the OG. Mercenaries are a dime a dozen in superhero universes, but the ones that are actually exceptional are rare. Exceptional as in the likes of Deadshot and Bullseye. In the DC universe, if you're looking to take care of your ops with a single shot to the head, you go to Deadshot. This dude stands firm as one of, if not the best marksman in the DC universe, and true to his name, every shot he takes is a guaranteed kill. Except if you're Batman, in which case he's protected by main character plot armor. But other than the Batman fluke, Deadshot has proven time and time again that he never misses his shots, so much so that people consider his accuracy to be unnatural and near superhuman. Personally, I think that might be overrated. I mean, the guy who wears an advanced scope on his eye, with that, can we really say his aim is almost superhuman? It kind of carries. If anyone's aim is that supernaturally, it should probably be this guy. Marvel's Top Gun mercenary Bullseye. What this guy lacks in a more creative name, he more than makes up with in skill, trust. Unlike Deadshot, who relies heavily on firearms, Bullseye is an absolute killer with just about anything that can be thrown. Once, dude legit slit a guy's throat with a throwing card. Another time, it was his own tooth he used to penetrate a poor victim's skull, and the crazy thing was, he didn't even throw the tooth. He spat it out. Point is, my guy is way too overpowered for a person without any superpowers. Thankfully, that seems to be all he shares to DC's Deadshot. Well, that and their shady occupation as high-level mercs / assassins. So 2 points to whoever's the copycat here, and as for who that is, it'll surprise you to find out that Deadshot's the original top marksman since 1950. Marvel just copied the idea and made it way too OP 26 years later. In a battle of the crime bosses in the underbelly of town, there are a few notable guys I can think of. Penguin, Tombstone, Two-Face, you name it. But they don't particularly come close to these guys. Tobias Whale and Kingpin. Well, that charming fellow who looks like he hasn't died a day in his life is Tobias Whale. Once a simple, presumably skinny fellow who worked his way from racketeering to becoming the head of the criminal organization in Metropolis, all without a shred of superpowers. The same roughly applies to Kingpin. Large, burly, terrible sense of humor, but also the underground boss of New York. Doesn't get any bigger than that.
You took my family. Now I'm gonna make sure you never see yours again.
You know, despite his size and all, it's so hard to imagine the guy's really super powerless. Still, all that mass certainly makes him thick-skinned. That's probably why the guy can tank Spider-Man's blows and dish some back. Anyway, as far as I know, both villains don't share anything in common besides being huge crime bosses, literally and metaphorically. That means just one point at the thief inspired by the other, and come on out, DC, because it's all you. Kingpin started running their underground way back in 1967, 20 years before Tobias Whale even existed. Up next is one of the funniest forms of copying I've ever seen between Marvel and DC. It centers around quite literally the hottest pair of ladies in the universes, Starfire and Firestar. Right from their names, I am incredibly appalled at the lack of creativity and copying off the other, and I bet it's DC that can do such a thing. I feel it in my bones, brother. Before we play the Point of the Terrible Thief game, let's see what else is similar about these two heroes. On the surface, they both look like they use fire-based powers, but the science behind the whole thing is a bit more complicated than that. Starfire's powers are based on ultraviolet radiation that she absorbs and releases in blasts, while Firestar draws her flames from radioactive and electromagnetic energy stored up within her. They both sure look like fire to me. That's enough for a theft point. And thankfully, that's all that ties them up together. Their origins couldn't be any further from each other. Firestar is a regular human mutant, whereas Starfire is an alien from the planet Tamaran. Tamaran? Am I saying that right? Well, it doesn't matter. It's a strange place with strange customs.
I did not see that coming.
Leland Fomarl. Our kind can learn language from the act of kissing. I am Coriander of Tamaran. Thank you.
Of course it is. As far as points are concerned, I think it's only fair to issue 2 points to the name thing and the misleading fiery-looking abilities thing. Although they both kind of sport the flamin' red hair, their character design is largely different. So who's the terrible thief that couldn't be bothered to cook up a different name? Good golly, it's Marvel. And to think they didn't even wait past a year after Starfire's debut in 1980 to shamelessly rip their idea from them. I don't know about you guys, but reptiles give me the heebie-jeebies big time. It's why if villains like Killer Croc and Lizard really existed in real life, I'd find me another universe to live in. Let's start with the bigger and more terrifying one.
You look like you've been working out, Croc. Yeah, got an upgrade. The tail's new.
That huge crocodile monster that looks like he's been on steroids since birth is Killer Croc, and like his name suggests, he'd unalive you in less than a second if you ever go dipping near his waters.
The problem with steroids is I get the munchies.
Meanwhile, his cousin on the Marvel side is called Lizard. And let's just say, just because his name sounds less killer-ish doesn't mean he still won't rip you apart. With reptilian looks that are almost incredibly similar, we've already nailed a point for copy theft, and another for their abilities like super strength, impenetrable lizard skin, regenerative powers that allow them to regain lost limbs, etc. But how do they fare in other aspects, like their origins? That turns out to be one of the few things that set these two apart, actually. While Lizard was once a geneticist obsessed with regaining his lost arm with the lizard DNA, Killer Croc was unfortunately born looking like a monster. Kinda explains why Lizard seems a little more civilized compared to his DC counterpart. Guess that leaves 2 points to DC for copying Lizard from Marvel 20 years after Lizard debuted in 1963. Up next, we have a pair of amorphous villains that have every potential to be A-tier villains, but are unfortunately not. Clayface and Sandman. On the DC side of the ring, weighing who knows how many pounds, is it man, is it mud, or an unholy communion of both? It's Clayface.
Clayface.
Finally, I'm free.
Most people don't seem to understand just how underplayed Clayface is. Sure, his name doesn't spark a hint of fear in even a kid's heart, but what people don't know is that Clayface has the ability to not just shapeshift or become passively invulnerable to attacks, dude also has the ability to melt people. Somehow. Too bad he's the kind of villain you can easily defeat with a hose. Suddenly not so terrifying anymore. How about his Marvel lookalike Sandman? Now, Sandman is exactly as his name sounds. A man made of sand. Imagine Clayface but drier. What Sandman lacks in the ability to melt people, he makes up for in his ability to grow into large sandstorms and pummel people.
They wouldn't listen to Marco, but they can't ignore Sandman.
Good heavens, that game was amazing. Beyond that, he shares pretty much the same amorphous abilities as Clayface, including his invulnerability to physical attacks and projectiles. Naturally, he's also got the same weaknesses, too. Good heavens, that game was trash. And as a cherry on top of the cake here, both villains are a result of accidental exposure to hazardous situations. In Clayface's case, it was a pool of radioactive protoplasm. As for Sandman, it was a sandy beach irradiated by a nuclear reactor. All in all, I think these levels of likeness between the two merits a full 3 points to the copycat Marvel, as it would seem Clayface debuted as early as 1940, 23 years before Sandman hit the prints. Heroes save the world lots of times, standing in the forefront of all dangers known to man and unknown to man. That's all good and dandy, but in order to be a successful hero, there's one vital requirement beyond powers and cash. Butlers. Butlers of high caliber like Alfred and Jarvis. Like, I'm not a superhero and I desperately need one. Imagine if I had a guy like Alfred serving me tea and biscuits every night and beat bad guys on the side. I dare you to find any other butler in the DC universe more capable than him. Go ahead, I'll wait. Can't you? In fact, I might as go as far as to say that the only reason Batman has lived as long as he has is mostly thanks to Alfred. Heck, one time the dude literally beat the crap out of Superman after he broke Batman's back again. Yikes, dude. I know that was all thanks to a superpower pill that he took, but dang did he look pissed. Super pill aside, Alfred has proven to be a formidable butler with impressive self-defense skills, having been kidnapped unsuccessfully 380 times. His take-home must be very, very worth the risk. With all those accolades Alfred's piled up, I worry that Marvel's counterpart Butler may pale in comparison.
And may I say how refreshing it is to finally see you in a video with your clothing on, sir. Welcome home, sir. Congratulations on the opening ceremonies. They were such a success.
Introducing Jarvis, the butler to Tony Stark and the Avengers. Many people may not know this, but before Tony created the Jarvis AI assistant, there was actually a human butler namesake. You might remember the funny, lovable version of him from the show, Agent Carter.
He should be judged, and so should you for helping him. He should be shamed. I'm gonna show him the business end of this. Or the Easter egg bit where we got to see him in Avengers Endgame.
Howard, everything's gonna be all right. For everything done for this country.
Jarvis? Have we ever met that guy? You meet a lot of people, sir.
Now, when it comes to his butler skills, Jarvis has proven himself to be second to none on the Marvel side of the fence. I mean, can you imagine catering to all the constantly changing members of the Avengers in the comics? Brutal work, I tell you. Then there's his fighting skills, which placed him as the boxing champion for the Royal Air Force 3 years in a row. Not to mention training under Captain America to the point that he was recognized as an official member of the Avengers. Not sure why this one sucks, though.
Really? Oh, really don't think you want to do that, Mr. Jarvis. Mr. Jarvis, I really wouldn't do that. But
I shan't hurt you too badly.
Mr. Jarvis, would you... I learned that one from my brother.
Suffice it to say, Jarvis is every bit a dang fine butler as Alfred is, which is why it pains me to say that he was largely inspired by Alfred, who debuted as early as 1943. Score 2 points for Marvel and their late copy work in 1964. At least they eventually immortalized Jarvis as an AI to make him completely unique in the end. When you hear the names Blue Beetle or simply Beetle, the last thing you'd expect is to see dudes in a Battletech suit. I know, it's just shocking. What you normally expect would be a bug superpowered person like Spider-Man or something, which makes the idea of using a bug-themed battlesuit quite unique, the kind of unique that doesn't just happen a second time without copycat foul play. Let's start with DC's Blue Beetle.
Blue, no!
Apparently, Blue Beetle's battlesuit comes from this ancient magical/alien scarab artifact. That's a mouthful for something so small. Anyway, this seemingly harmless scarab bonds with its host, granting them the suit capable of flight, immense durability, super strength, and an array of energy-based weapons fit for slaughter. Trust me, that little scarab can pack quite the punch. Now imagine my surprise when I saw Marvel's Beetle looking quite familiar. I mean, sure, his suit looks a bit too bug-like and low-tech, but you can't deny the semblance. As for Beetle's suit capabilities, it falls within the same scopes of super strength, durability, flight, and just a crap ton of weaponry. And I do mean a ton.
You and me both. Might not be a fair fight, but I owe this guy a big-time smackdown.
Make that 5, Nova.
Five's not enough.
So far, I'd say the major difference between both Beetles would be that Blue Beetle's tech is much more sophisticated because it's a sentient alien tech, whereas Beetle's is just your regular suit of armor chock full of unaliving tech. Either way, someone did quite a lot of copying and didn't even bother to hide it. Looking your way, Marvel. I know DC made the cut first with Blue Beetle in 1939, and you running behind in 1964. Take your L and 2 points for copying Blue Beetle's battlesuit idea and powers. Quick question, what's your favorite element of all time? Mine is lightning. It's why I idolize the likes of Electro and Black Lightning. That sparky, beautiful, destructive power they possess is the kind of thing I'd totally not abuse whatsoever. If anything, here's someone you guys should be worried about.
Bet you never saw this coming. Stop it.
Electro. The guy who has the capacity to be something much more but limits himself to being a common crook. Electro's abilities are just as you see it. The dude is essentially a living battery capable of absorbing near unlimited amounts of electricity and discharging it violently. In some cases, he can even turn into a living spark and travel through appliances, power grids, and the likes.
Oh boy. I hate this song.
However, Electro ain't the only one with the spark. On the DC side of the universe, we have this guy that's arguably one of the coolest heroes out there.
Absorbing lightning's totally my thing. Go ahead, zap me.
You've never had Black Lightning.
Yeah, I'm not gonna touch that one. Anywho, Black Lightning's powers stem from his metahuman gene, allowing him to generate bioelectricity. On paper, it might sound different from Electro's, but visually, they all look the same. The one difference being that Black Lightning's powers aren't nearly as overpowered as his Marvel counterparts, which would explain why he's almost only capable of electrical blasts, discharges, and shields. None of that fancy schmancy turning into pure electricity and zipping around wires shtick.
You have no idea what a relief that is.
I can take anything you throw at me.
Which is why it made sense that his character was largely inspired by Marvel, who came up with Electro first in 1964. But seeing as DC didn't steal much beyond the superpowers 13 years later, I'll say 2 points will suffice. Bug-themed superheroes made quite the splash back in the day, especially after Spider-Man's success, which led to the wonderful reception of these two, Bumblebee and Wasp. Which do we start with? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which striped lady gets the dough? What's that, Bumblebee? Okay, well, the new gods have spoken. What can I say about Bumblebee? Except that she's your average femme superhero who started out powerless, save for the extraordinary capabilities of her black and yellow striped suit, a little strength, speed, agility, the ability to fly, and even generate electricity for some reason. Looks and sound eerily similar to someone else, right? Well, that's where Wasp steps in, or flies in. You know, if I didn't know any better, I'd say I was looking at the same person. And it's not just the looks, even her abilities to boot. Powerless, just like Bumblebee, Wasp's heroic deeds are performed thanks to her suit. Same agility, flight, strength, even bioelectricity, and a daring personality.
You give theoretical physicists a bad name.
Are you joking?
Now knock it off, before I make you.
With the power at my disposal,
Faced with how atrociously similar Bumblebee and Wasp are, I was initially happy at the thought that at least Wasp had something unique over Bumblebee. The ability to shrink down to the size of an actual wasp and even tinier, all thanks to Dr. Pym's subatomic particles. That was until I found out that Bumblebee can do it too.
Did I get your attention?
Guess nothing's unique anymore. Well, what was I even expecting anyway? The insects both ladies are named after are already incredibly similar. The superheroes might as well be too. So, who copied who? My guts say Marvel, but my heart's eyeing DC. And what do you know? My heart was right. DC did debut Bumblebee in 1976. A whopping 13 years after Marvel released Wasp. That's a full 3 points to DC for their copying skills. Oh man, guys, it's been an intense showdown, but it is finally over. After going neck and neck for a while, the brand that wins the Shame Award for being the ultimate copycat with a total of 61 points is... Marvel! Ring, 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 ring! DC, on the other hand, barely managed to save their dignity with 56 points. Good for them.